child deaths are really hard because they're truly innocent. And, you know, when you find out that there's a beautiful baby girl that's born, that's 7.4 pounds, that doesn't have any health issues, and that doesn't have a chance to live that beautiful life that she deserves, it just makes me want to be better and make sure that this doesn't happen again, and then do the best I can to be the voice for the victim. My name's Detective Lacey Murdoch. I've been in the homicide unit now for 6 years. I've been on the job for 23 years. So it was December 24th of 2017. I actually was just finishing last minute wrapping gifts, and I got a call from our boss at about 11:30 at night, and a witness had called in that there was a newborn baby found in a recycling bin that was deceased. Constable Crowshire and Constable Smith were the first responders, and they met with the witness, who's Charlie Schilmer. He used to do security in the area around here. The bins used to be right, I think, in the middle here. Charlie used to live just around the corner in his motorhome, and so when he was walking his dog and looking for bottles, this is where he came.
I'm security here, so I was doing my locks and checking my gates. And I walked by the dumpster and I thought, well, maybe see what's in these bins, you know, for bottles or something. I lifted up the thing and I thought it was a doll. So I lifted up the rag and it was a baby.
It was minus 28 degrees Celsius. Charlie, when he discovered baby Eve, had thought that he could have saved her had he gotten there sooner. And he was very traumatized because he wanted to be able to save her and help her.
Police say it's also been a stressful time for the man who found the infant.
I wake up in the middle of the night and think of it.
Obviously, we canvass the neighborhood. We gather CCTV, talk to neighbors in the area if anybody saw something. Forensic crime scenes unit does their thing, and they get DNA and they take exhibits and everything else. We did news releases. We put up posters in Bonas. Bonas was really huge for helping us, actually, because I think they wanted to know just as much as we did, and we were concerned that the mother might be in distress. What we did this time, which was the first time in CPS history, was we used Parabon Nanolabs, it's called. They're a company out of the States, and they do snapshot phenotyping, DNA, and then genetic genealogy. And so we sent off the mother's DNA, hoping that we might be able to find out who she was. They did 3 computerized kind of predictions of a picture of what the person might look like. And so we did a media release asking if anybody's seen this person. And of course that obviously generates a lot of tips. Through this family tree, we just started eliminating and going places. We went throughout Alberta, BC, New Brunswick, Maine, spoke to possible family members and got DNA samples from them and then sent those off to the lab. And that wasn't successful either.
Officers say these pictures are their best hope in solving the mystery, as the case had come to an investigative standstill.
Obviously, we have some very difficult and challenging questions to ask the mother. Even though the baby's death is undetermined, obviously the circumstances leading up to that baby being placed in the dumpster are extremely suspicious.
One of the downfalls is that if the subject is adopted, they won't show up on the family tree, and it's really hard to find out who they are. I just kind of thought like we were at a dead end. We'd done several media releases, we'd asked for the public's help, and we were hitting the wall. So I just thought, you know what, we're gonna have to start right from the beginning. So we had a ton of CCTV that had been collected from the area from that date. Luckily, it was within like the first probably half an hour that I was combing through it. I saw a male and a female come into the Mac store, and there was nothing really, different or special about it until they came up to the counter, and the female put down Gatorade and Advil, and then a package of maxi pads. Looking at her more close, I thought she was pale, and she looked like she was hunched over at the counter. So I thought it was odd, and so we decided that we were going to find out who these people were. We had to obtain DNA from her, obviously, and we'd been down the road before. We'd done it 15 times before, so I was hopeful, but I wasn't confident just because it had happened so many times prior to this. We had to get her DNA covertly to compare with the DNA we had of the mother. They did a rush on the lab, came back as a match to Nina Albright as the mother of baby Eve. That's probably one of the best moments I've had in my career, just because it had been so long, and during that whole time that we're looking for the mother, Eve was in the morgue, unnamed, just as an unknown baby. And so it meant a lot to me because I wanted to know what happened and how we got here.
This is a case that weighed heavily on the minds and hearts of not only investigators, but the larger community. While particulars surrounding the motive and intent will unfold as part of the court process, we hope this provides some level of closure for all involved.
It's really hard with an infant because they're so small that the autopsy couldn't show cause of death. We got charge approval for indignity to a human body and failed to provide the necessaries of life. And she was interviewed by Detective Malsum Dudar, who did a great job. She admitted that Eve was born alive and that, she gave birth in her parents' house, in her bedroom downstairs. Her parents were upstairs. Didn't call for help, didn't ask. She said that Eve looked up at her and she was breathing and healthy, and that she had just passed away. And then she went with her boyfriend at the time, who lived in this area, and made the decision to put Eve in a dumpster in minus 28 degrees in a bag. We realized later on that, in fact, baby Eve was deceased before she was put in the dumpster, and I thought it was really important to let Charlie know those details because there was nothing that he could have done. But it bothered him right up until the time he passed away. She pled guilty to indignity to a human body, and they withdrew the failed to provide the necessaries of life, and she was sentenced to 18 months probation. And that's it. Alfred Sanito was the biological father of baby Eve. During our investigation and speaking with the suspect, she didn't tell us who the father was. Our investigative team did some digging and found out that Alfred Sanito was an ex-boyfriend of Nina Albright. We reached out to him and had found out that they hadn't seen each other, or they had broken up in April of 2017, and he had no idea that she was pregnant or that it was his child. And so he was devastated when he found out. He gave us his DNA consensually, and we found out a month later that he was, in fact, the biological father.
I was just devastated. I didn't know what to do with myself. My first thought was I wish it happened differently. I wish that maybe I was able to save her, or maybe I was able to prevent what happened to her. Part of me still lives with that feeling of blaming myself. You never really stop thinking of the what ifs and what could have been. Certain days are harder than others, especially closer to holidays. where we visit baby Eve and make sure that she knows that regardless of what happened, she is part of the family and she will always be part of the family.
How do you deal with this? And it's funny because I asked Detective Dave Sweet, you know, how do you do this? Because he's had a lot of infant deaths. And he said, oh, I talk to them. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I talk to my victim and I tell them, look, we're working hard and we're gonna find out who did this and we're gonna give you some closure. And kind of thought it was hokey, and then I tried it. So every night before we found Nina Albright, I spoke to baby Eve and told her that, you know, we're working hard every day and that we're gonna find out who your mom is, and then we're gonna find you a place where you can rest. To be honest, we were so fortunate that Charlie found Eve, because abandoned babies happens more often than people actually realize. Hope's Cradle is so important because it gives mothers who are in distress or think that they have no other choice, it gives them an option to take their baby there anonymously and give that child the beautiful life that they deserve, and there's no repercussions for them. I hope it doesn't happen again, but if it does and there's a mother in need and doesn't know what to do, I hope she drops off her baby at Hope's Cradle.
If Hope's Cradle was something that existed during Eve's time, then maybe instead of being here, I'll be at home with her, or, you know, somewhere else. Definitely somewhere else. Being a man, I don't know what it's like to struggle with that as a woman, but coming from a perspective of someone who lost their daughter to something that could have been prevented had Hope's Cradle existed, I want everyone to know that they have options.
I would just like to tell Eve that she was loved by many, many people and that she will forever be in my heart.